Today's episode of Desertwood Days with Kathy Blaze is sponsored by Cole Obarts Entertainment, providing amusement, celebration, and distraction since 2013. To find out more, visit us on the web at www.coleobartsent.com.
I wanna visit all the places nobody goes. I wanna teach all the things that nobody knows. I wanna grow wings, leave the coop, learn to fly. Bungee jump from the tallest building in Dubai. I wanna fly around town in my UFO. I wanna eat real food, not the GMOs. I wanna make moves, call the shots like the boss. I wanna love like I never lost.
Welcome back to Desertwood Days. Today's guest is someone that a lot of you probably recognize. He's a long-standing filmmaker in the Arizona community. Let's welcome Mr. George Obarts. Hello there, sir.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be back.
Great. So, George, I always like to start off by giving our audience a little bit of bio on our guest. And I know a lot of people know you, but there's some that don't know you. Tell us, where is George originally from?
Well, originally, I'm from Alaska. My father was a developer and moved my family to the Prescott area when I was about 3 years old. So I only have the slightest memory of Alaska. We went back up there once when I was 2 or 3.
Oh.
And then we, because we were in the process of moving here. And so we were here permanently when I was 3. So that was the last time I actually saw Alaska. I've never been back.
Do you still have family there?
Some more and more of them are moving out.
Oh.
The family that bought our house has sold it and relocated to Arkansas and Texas.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have, I think we've still got 1 or 2 relatives that live up there.
Okay, that's awesome.
Most of my family's in New Mexico and Arkansas.
Okay.
And here.
And Prescott.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So this little guy moved to Prescott. What was it that got you inspired and got you into the film industry?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
I saw Star Wars when I was a little kid, and I lost my mind. I wanted to make Star Wars movies from that point forward. I wanted nothing more than to make movies.
Awesome. There's nothing like a Star Wars movie.
It was my world when I was little.
Yes, yeah. And what was it about Star Wars? Do you remember?
It was so transformative for me. When I was in the theater watching it, I believed I was seeing it for real. And it took me places I'd never been. I like to watch sci-fi. I liked horror movies a little bit when I was a kid, but I'd have to watch them like peeking over the couch because they really scared me. But as I got older, I liked them more. But I just never seen anything like it. It was so much more than anything I'd seen.
And I asked that question because I know you, and I know the type of films you create. I always say his mind is out there. I mean, and I always wonder, where did that come from? I mean, I can see that with a love for a film like Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So, how? For people that don't know, a lot of us call you Buzz.
Yeah.
Well, I call him George. I mean, y'all call him Buzz. I call him George. But where does George looking at Buzz? How do you see? Where does this mindset come from? I mean, because you are very creative. You do a lot of different stuff.
I love to make things. I've got a very creative mind, and it's kind of a mental condition. You know how people are hyperactive, ADHD and things like that? I'm manic.
Oh.
So I feel like I need to always be doing something, and it gets me in trouble because I want to start every task I see. But for me, I'm manic in a creative way. So
I'm going to invite you over to my house so you can get manic in my house.
But see, I wouldn't be cleaning. I'd just start painting one wall, and then I'd find something else interesting to go on. And so that when you're manic, you really have to focus, and you have to be committed to finishing, because everything looks so good to start. Everything inspires you.
Right.
And so that's part of where it comes from for me, from being manic. And then I just love to tell stories.
Oh, I love that. And being this person that's manic and being a creative as yourself, how do you stay on task so that you're able to complete things?
Well, that's kind of hard because I realized that I think I get the manic behavior from my father.
Mm,
Because I met shortly after, well, 5 years after my father died, his little brother, who was 5 years younger than him, came down to visit, and we took him out to the sawmill that my dad had where he passed away. This is all up in Prescott area. And he said about my dad, he said, I never met anybody who thought that there was some place better than where he was, more than my brother. He was talking about my dad. And that's just, I kind of have that same behavior.
mm,
I get so excited about the next thing, but I still love what I started.
uh,
So I have to remind myself to not be like my dad and be so tempted to start the next thing when I haven't finished the last.
mm.
And that's actually something a little bit that I want to talk about today here
Okay.
on the show, Movie Wise.
Okay. Now, speaking of movie wise, I mean, you're a filmmaker, which most people know, but you, like you just mentioned, you have other things that you work on and that's up under your belt also. You also started a company to help other filmmakers. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's Movie Group. I actually have a publishing company as well. But Movie Group is Media, One Voice, Independent Entertainment Group. And I started that after I was shooting a movie called The Murder Muse.
Mm,
And that's one of the projects that hasn't been finished yet that
Mm.
needs to be done. But during The Murder Muse, I lost both of my regular stars. I lost Debbie Overby. She passed of cancer while we were shooting. And then a month later, Drew Moore, who was in The Murder Muse,
mm, mm.
passed away. So it made finishing the movie kind of complicated, but we did manage to get it put together. So the movie is complete. But I thought, I'm not going to let any of my friends, any more of the hardworking people in our community, slip away
Right.
without at least getting a little recognition for everything that they do. And so that's what Movie Group is. It's to help unite the community and help people finish these projects.
I love that. You know what? And that is one of the things that, as long as I've known you, that I've always admired about you, is that you are totally about community. You don't like tooting your horn, I know that, but I'm going to toot it for you today. But you are about community, and what you have created is about community also. So, how is it that you're able to, what are some of the things that you're doing to get people involved in MovieWorks?
Well, Movie Group.
Movie group, sorry
And,
about that.
So right now I'm still working with, it's been a long road, but I'm still working with Kristen Levonway,
Okay.
getting that movie finished. And then when that's done, excuse me, when that's complete and we finally have that one out, the next project that we're helping is Good Stew Productions movie. And that is called The Breakfast Killers.
Okay.
And that's the one that Wendy West was working on when she passed away.
Okay.
And so that's got some complicated issues. We're going to need to do some work with it because Wendy had not completed all of her scenes.
Okay.
And so I'm going to help them with a little bit of rewrites and a little bit of shoots, and we're going to get that movie put together for them.
That is
That's
awesome.
the next big project that we're taking on. And besides that,
So the premise is to bring to help in productions or individuals that may have a film that's shelved for whatever the reason may be, and help them to be able to get that out there if that's what they want, to get it completed if that's what they want.
also, and to help people get started
Mm.
if they want. There's a lot of great things that we can help people with, and you and I have talked about getting your script put together because you
Yes.
have a script that you've been working on.
Yes.
That's something else we can help, and that's something that doesn't cost anything to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you can do with any word processing software, and there's some great free ones that are specifically for film.
Right.
So
You just had to put me out there, didn't you?
well, I think everybody has a story within them, and
I
people
agree.
who want to turn it into something they should have people to help them with.
I totally agree. And you know what? I have always said I have a few stories within me that I like to tell. And you know what? A lot of them are worthy. I believe that when we tell stories, there's a reason for it. I mean, whether it's to help someone else or it's to help ourselves, to heal ourselves. So there's a reason behind telling our stories. There's a purpose for it. So we were talking about your films that you have. You have Murder Muse. You have Prankster. You have Phase Redemption, which is completed.
Mm-hmm.
And Phase Redemption is out there. I saw it the other day on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's on a few different places.
And Pizza Shop, the movie's on Amazon Prime too.
Yes, yeah.
But what I was talking about when we had to go to break was Prankster failed quality control for subtitles.
Oh, okay.
And on Prankster, the reason it did was because they're requiring something that they didn't require back when we did subtitles for Phase Redemption. You have to have atmosphere now. So
and what does it mean by atmosphere?
You can't just have dialogue. You just can't have the person's name. You have to have footsteps approaching, vehicle approaching, door closing. So those are, as ADA standards change, they're requiring more.
Okay.
And so that made a lot of sense to me, but it's a very slow process to go back and redo those. So it's probably going to push the release of Prankster. We'll get it to them this month, but it can take the distributor up to 3 months to get it out to streaming services.
Okay, but you're preparing for Murder Muse. Tell us about Murder Muse.
So Murder Muse is one that was actually made before Prankster. We're going to have it out by summer of this year. It is my first horror movie.
Okay.
I've always wanted to make a horror movie and a sci-fi movie. To do a sci-fi movie right is very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I went with the horror first, because it's more affordable, and I put together a great team, and when we see the trailer here in a minute, there's some fantastic actors in it, and it's got some good content, but it was my friend Drew Moore's last film. He passed away while we were shooting it, and so I want it to be as good as it can be before we release it. But at some point that turns into an excuse, and it has to be released.
Okay, well, let's take a look at Murder Muse, and we'll talk a little bit more about it after the...
Okay.
Hey guys. I'm not really sure what's the best way to say this.
Mrs. Brown, you've been a legend in Hollywood for nearly 2 decades before coming to Arizona. Where will you live?
In my studio. I do my writing much better there anyways. Closer to my muse there.
Your muse? Really?
What would be the killer's famous last words? I savor the killing.
I'm ready for my cups up, Mr. DeMille.
I don't know who's in here. 3 of us and there's 1 of you.
Someone tell me what the hell's going on?
I cannot make you believe what your eyes cannot.
Doesn't that seem beneath you?
Nothing's beneath me.
That laugh.
Yeah, Tina's laugh is pretty wonderful.
So was that her actual laugh?
Oh, yeah.
Really? You didn't have to change it or do anything?
Nope. Didn't do anything to it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Tina's freaky.
And see, part of the graphics that are missing from that is where Tina is sitting there whispering, "I savor the killing." There's actually the ghost of the killer whispering in her ear, and you actually see this translucent creature whispering in her ear as she talks, as she repeats the phrase. And she says it in Latin first, but that's part of the CG that needs to be done right to make it look good. That's actually one of the things that turned out best, but the other thing where the girl turns around and screams. She sees the ghost in the mirror, and then the ghost steps out of the mirror. So it's got some complicated stuff that needs to be done.
Right. You had some awesome talent in this film also.
Yeah, we had quite a few. I'm sure everybody recognizes Becky Joe because she's been in so many commercials. But
right. I mean,
Samantha Panu,
Alan Johnson.
Alan Johnson, yep.
Yes, yes.
And Ben Vasquez.
Yes.
And then people will recognize Jeff Rutz. You actually had Jeff here on the show. He's an author.
Yes.
But he plays a much bigger role in that. He had a very small role in Prankster, so people recognize him from Prankster.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, when was this filmed? How long ago?
This was filmed almost 3 years ago.
Okay, so it is time.
Yeah, it is beyond time. That's what I was saying. It needs some work, and the work was expensive. And the plan was to make Prankster, which was supposed to kind of be a cash cow. It was going to be the first one I was going to self-distribute, and it would give us lots of money for to finish the post-production right on Murder Muse. And what's happened is this cash cow that was supposed to be done in 6 months has taken almost 2 years to complete. And so it put it off way longer than it should. So that one's going to be out this month, and we are to the distributor this month and out for streaming within 2 weeks to 3 months. I know that's a huge difference, but it just basically, that's the fastest that a streaming service could pick it up is 2 weeks. And it has to be marketed to all of them, and some of them take 3 months to ingest it in their system.
So the work that you have to do on your end, how much time will that take to get it completed?
We should be able to have that work completed by May. That is our goal, to have it ready for them by May, so it could be released within the first month of summer.
Okay.
So actually, I guess we'd have to have it to them by April if we want to make sure it was out there. But we have to get it in its finished form so we can start advertising it and let people know it's finally coming.
So why did you decide to go horror this time?
I've always wanted to make a horror and a sci-fi, and I couldn't afford to make a sci-fi, but then I figured out I could afford to make a horror. And so I put together a great team. And it's funny, we did have, early on, I had started working with an actor who had a dinner theater of its own. And that's where it takes place, is in a dinner theater.
Oh, okay.
But the actor had to bow out, and he's been working so much in New Mexico now. And so when we lost the actor, we lost the location.
You lost the location.
So then we had, but I still really liked it. So he was the inspiration for the dinner theater, so we kept the dinner theater. And I called Alan Johnson very last minute, and I said, "Hey, Alan, we've kind of lost one of our main characters. Would you be able to step in and fill the role?" And he hadn't seen the script yet. He said, "Sure, I should be able to do that. Shouldn't be a problem. Send me the script." And so Alan stepped in and did a good job. That was right before he moved to LA.
Oh, okay.
And Sam, the one who screams, who has that wonderful, that's her real scream too, unenhanced.
Okay.
She has also moved out to LA.
Yes. And these are people that have worked with you. So you're sending people to LA.
I think less sending them and delaying their leaving.
He didn't offer me to be in this film. I think he didn't want to send me to LA.
There you go. I can't live without everyone.
That is true. But you know what? LA, hopefully we'll be coming to Arizona. We'll be seeing more of the stuff that they're seeing out there. That'll be nice. That'll be very nice.
Those big studios they're working on here are phenomenal.
Yes. So with Murder Muse, what are your expectations of? What do you want to see for Murder Muse? I mean, you have some great talent. Your first horrors, looks like some great work. What do you want to see from Murder Muse?
Well, for Murder Muse, I'm going with a different distribution plan than I have in the past. This Prankster is going to be the first one I release this way, and Murder Muse is going to be released the same. I'm going to do all three kinds of video on demand. Most people are only familiar with TVOD, which is transactional video on demand. That's where you pay to rent it.
Okay.
They also have advertisement video on demand, so people who can't afford to rent it, they can watch it for free if they put up with commercials.
Oh, okay.
So there are commercial slots cut into it.
Okay.
but they get to see the movie and they don't have to pay for it.
Right.
And you don't get as much revenue as you do from transactional, but you get 10 times the audience.
Right.
And then the last one is subscription VOD.
Mm.
So if you have Prime,
Uh-huh.
and Prime happens to take this movie because
Right.
we're not associated with them yet for either of these, although Pizza Shop the movie and Phase Redemption are both on Prime. So if it gets picked up on Prime because you're a Prime member, then you get to watch it without commercials. This is fun.
Awesome.
And so all 3 of those venues pay us. And what I would like to see is I would like to see it make enough money to pay for another film, maybe a science fiction.
Awesome. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you. It was great to be back.
And we look forward to seeing the Murder Muse. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will catch you next time on Desertwood Days.
Today's episode of Desertwood Days with Kathy Blaze is sponsored by Cole, Obarts Entertainment. Providing amusement, celebration, and distraction since 2013. To find out more, visit us on the web at www.coleobarts.com.